Assalamualaikum and a good day. First of all, I would like to thank SEAMEO Sen Regional Center for Special Education Need for inviting me to share about the best practice in the field of education. Okay, actually I'm not an expert, so let's consider this as sharing our experience and expertise for the benefits of all, inshallah. Okay, I'm share my PowerPoint first. Okay, what are a best practice? Best practice is set one guidelines, ethics, or ideas that represent the most efficient or prudent action in a good situation. It means that any activity we do, okay, if it benefit us and others, for example, our student, then it is a good practice. For example, as a teacher, I like to give a reward if my student answer my question in a class. As a result, student will feel joy and motivated. It is an example of good practice performed by a teacher. Although it seems normal, but is it beneficial or not? If so, then that is considered as a good practice. Okay, best practice may be applied by authorities such as regulators, self-regulatory organization, or others governing bodies, or they may be set internally by management, including in the field of education. Okay, good practice can be applied by educators and management, such as school principal. School principal also can apply, or officials in the field of education. So, what the purpose? What is the purpose of the best practice of for teacher or educators? Best practice are standards or guidelines that provide the best course of action in a particular situation or any situation. It is also the KPI of organization, and usually set by individuals for an achievement. So best practice serve as the best method or means to deal with a problem and issues that arise. Okay, then best practice serve as a general framework for a various situation. Okay, we see the example. A school organize student forum session every week. Organize forum session. So how the best practice ataupun implementation is involved? What is impact, benefit? So all should what they should be to highlight. So for example, there is an school that organize a forum session involving student. Student will take turns class by class present for the forum. For example, from 5 students will take their turn this week, while the subsequent week if the form 4 students and alternate for the following weeks. So what the benefits of the best practice? So knowledge discourses with students program is the school's benchmark in the public speaking. In other words, the school intends to produce a great orators, public speaking debater. Students can also develop their potential, confidence, and mastery of knowledge. This best practice can also be shared with others institution, and the benefits of best practice can be expanded to other schools. Thus, this show that the best practice can be implemented to other schools. Okay, so I want ask your question. Are you implementation the best practice? So I believe all teachers have implemented the best practice in the school, regardless of whether they are agreed or not. Thus, in this sharing session, I will urge everyone to share how the best practice can be shared with many people. So how? Through writing regarding the best practice. Writing. So I want to share tips of produce the best practice. Find out can be made into a practice that brings benefit. For example, as a teacher, we realize that our action or practice are beneficial. It has an impact on student and teacher. Thus, we share the best practice. Okay, secondly, strategy outline on how we implement it. And then implement the good practice, see the benefits, implication of the best practice that we have implemented. And it can be shared for the common good and format for the best practice writing. Okay, we can see the format. Firstly, have a title, abstract, keywords, introduction of the best practice implementation, justification, implementation objective, implementation the best practice, impact of the best practice implemented, summary and suggestion. So here I show the writing format first that all writers will use. This is a part of writing format. Okay, you can see it in a glance. This format will be provided by the organizer. Okay, firstly, title. How to determine the title? Titles consist of the best practice activities that are implemented, their impact and implication in general. Okay, for example, program of improving student writing skill. This program is one of the best practice activities that can be implemented, and improving student writing skills is the overall impact achieved. Then the next put your name as the first author. If there is more than one author, write the names of the other authors in the order. The number of the authors is not more than 5 people. Remind, it is followed by the name of the institution where the author works, which should be in order. If the institution are different, include the institution information according to their respective places, because it is possible that the writing related to best practice from various institution. Okay, next you see the abstract. What should be in the abstract? First of all, the abstract is limited to one paragraph only with no more than 250 words, 150 to 250 words lah. Abstract writing should be in italic. The first sentence refers to the introduction, which is brief summary of the best practice that we are to share. For example, if you write about reading as a best practice, write very briefly about the practice of reading in one line only. Then write a justification for why the best practice is implemented. In writing a justification, you can explain the problem or issues which can support the reason why this best practice is implemented. Next is objective. Okay, objective of writing about the best practice. State all the desired objective when best practice are implemented to student. Okay, finally, describe the effectiveness of the best practice that have been implemented. In this section, state what are the effectiveness or impact that can be achieved after your implemented best practice. Keep the description short and brief. Only state the finding in general. Okay, then please write the keywords below. The first keyword consists of the name of the best practice activity implemented. Then second keyword is impact or implication, and the third keyword is the subject of matter that is focused on. You can provide more than 3 keywords, but less than 5. Okay, the purpose of the keyword is to facilitate the search for material based on topic and reference. Introduction. Next, introduction of the best practice. In this section, you need to write a minimum 2 paragraph about best practice. Minimum 2 paragraph. In the introduction, you need to describe about the background of the best practice implemented. For example, if you are implementation a best practice in terms of book reading program, write down what is the concept of reading books, recommendation for reading books, and the like. This will provide understanding to the readers, and I suggest adding a few previous certain literature review associated with the reading, which can exhibit the knowledge of the writing. Keep it brief how to acquire the literature. You can use Google Scholar because there are many related references from Google Scholar. Okay, next, justification the best practice implementation. Okay, in this section, state why the best practice is implemented by providing relevant issues or problems. My students are unproficient in reading, spelling, and writing. Therefore, I implemented this best practice in class. Or maybe there is anticipation to implement the best practice. For example, to ensure student can do as much as, please state in a minimum of one paragraph. Okay, next, objective of implementation. In this writing, you need to state what are the objective of the best practice implemented. Okay, the objective must be easily achieved. For example, the objective of the implementation of book readings program as a best practice to ensure that students can cultivate the practice of reading book systematically. Okay, the objective section is important because you need to describe to the impact section based on the objective. So how to write a good objective? Objectives are usually determined based on the justification state in the previous section, justification. So next, best practice implemented. Okay, after you're starting the justification and also the objective in the section, you need to explain clearly what is the best practice that has been implemented to your student or anyone else. In this section, you need to describe it based on steps and activities that have been implemented in the best practice. In this section, I suggest you to insert such as diagrams, flow charts, graph, or any information that facilitate people who will read your writing to understand the best practice. Okay, to be honest, this part is like the heart of writing, where you have to give to reader explanation. What have you implemented? How do you implemented it? What method is used? You can see the attached example of how this section can to explain to reader about best practice. Okay, so it's very important this part. Okay, then next is impact of practice. Impact. In this section, you need to write that are the effect after implemented best practice on the target group, whether it is a students, colleges, or anyone. The effect of impact portrayed must be based on objective that have been stated in the previous section. This means if you have a 3 objective, then 3 description need to be stated in this impact section. You can express the finding in terms of diagrams, achievements, improvement graphs, students' works, outcomes, or any form you can display as evidence that there is an impact when the best practice have been implemented. However, I would like to remind you in this section, you must adhere for the format that has been set for placing diagrams, subheadings, and also tables as shown in the attachment. Okay. Next is summary and recommendation. Very simple. This paper is very simple. The final part of writing is the conclusion and recommendation. In this section, you need to write a simple summary of justification, objective, and impact. In this section, you need to combine several parts into one meaningful statement. For example, the justification for the implementation of the reading program as a best practice is due to the unproficiency of your students in reading in Malay language subject. Example, the objective of implementation it is to ensure that the student can read and construct sentence well. Okay, impact of the best practice: student can read fluently and effectively. Thus, in this summary section, I will give a brief description and summary based on the main three section. Okay, for example, this best practice has been able to provide great benefits to student when student can read fluently through the reading practice program that has been implemented by teacher. Okay, then at the same time, in this section, if you want to include a reference, it is better to include a reading practice program implementations by others in the literature. I said before from Google Scholar. Therefore, you can relate it that this reading practice from is similar to research performed by the author. Then your writing will be appear more scholarly. Okay, hopefully lah. In addition, in this section, you can also need to write suggestion that you can expand on or that you can develop in your writing for the future. For example, if you are currently writing about reading practice program, maybe after this, you can expand it with a speaking practice for your students. Therefore, relevant recommendation can be given. Okay, last is a reference. Okay, before finishing the writing, you need to include references at the end of the writing the best practice. The reference that you can include in this writing that have been writing throughout with writing from the abstract to conclusion and recommendation. Okay, reference must use the new edition of the APA style format, which is that latest version is 7.0 lah. So you can refer to this version from social media applications such as YouTube. Many individuals have explained about this new version 7.0 APA. Okay, that's all I can share about the best practice through writing. In my opinion, your writing can actually provide great benefit to many people out there. I believe many educators have implemented best practice, but perhaps not many share them. So one of the ways that can be used is sharing the writing with others. Before I forget, writing on the best practice can also be done in a group. Also done in a group. And in addition, the best practice that are implemented are not necessarily focused on students only. It may involve college administration or your life as an educator. For example, a teacher implementation, the best practice such as planting vegetable beside the classroom as a food for the student. It can also be categorized as a best practice because it produce very good encouraging outcomes. Okay, therefore do not be too rigid in the focusing best practice only one students. Okay, finally I would like to thank SEAMEO Sen Regional Center for the Special Education Needs once again for inviting me to share this simple knowledge online. Hopefully the sharing is useful and can be used as a reference, as a guide. Okay, thank you so much again. Assalamualaikum and good day to all.